any updates that you can share with around Nick and how he's doing and how the family's doing? And
Yeah, I don't want to speak for them. I really care, but yeah, I have talked to Nick a couple times each day. In the general terms, everything is going really well.
And assume you'll just let him make the call when he's going to come back.
Oh, have not even had a discussion on that with him, and I don't plan to. Yeah, but as far as everything's going really well.
Because you get 2 All-Stars yesterday, and then
yes, I completely forgot. Yeah.
Both those guys, obviously, deserving of that honor. I mean, the way they played.
Yeah, they're good players.
John, when you think back to Seth joining this organization, and then it was his first full year, and it was Z's first year too, but that was when you really started to change that defensive engine concept. Can you put into words what Seth has meant to this franchise and what it's becoming?
Oh, and I want to say this carefully because I think Nashville got a really good player too in that deal. I think it helped both organizations. But I'll speak for our organization. It's a huge deal for us, in how we're trying to play, where it all generates from. I think the leadership is becoming to be a big part of that as he keeps growing. It's just a huge piece to the puzzle.
Is there a signature to his play or a thing you see him do often that you're just kind of like, that's Seth Jones?
You know what the signature to me? It's everything. He can bring he can do a lot of things, and that's why I've always thought he should be in that conversation as one of the top defensemen in this league. It's not always about the points that he's putting up, which he does, but it's how he defends, all the situations he's been put in, and now that you guys don't see it much because you're not hands-on with him, but just the leadership skills that he has.
When you watched a guy, and maybe this is a poor comparison, but a guy like Lidstrom was so good at so many things. He didn't necessarily stand out at anything. He was just good at everything. And when I watch Seth, he seems to remind me, he does so many things well that nobody can say, wow, he's really fast, or he scores a lot of goals, or he's got a huge shot. Do you see that in his game?
It's everything. I'll disagree with you with both. They're both. See, I think Lidstrom was a hell of a player.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure how you put it. Nothing stood out. He stood out.
Yeah, he stood out as a player, but not like he didn't have
not one particular
aspect,
thing. And that's what Jonesy is. Jonesy is. You just can't pinpoint. And just answering Allison's question, I can't pinpoint one thing. It's everything about his game. Yeah. And just you remember early on with him, where I had to sit him when we're dead out of the water, our season's over. I had to sit him just to try to make a thought in his head that you have to be ready to go all the time. We don't even think about that anymore. So he has grown so much, not just the physical things that we see, but the mental part of the game too. And the leadership skills that he's developing are fantastic.
Do you have to coach a player? Like, how, being where he is at, what?
No, we don't say too much. See, I think Jonesy has kind of fought it the past couple of games. I haven't said a word to him because he'll figure it out. And fought it. There's such a high standard that we don't see it all the time, and we don't see it keep on improving. You start saying, he wasn't one of his greatest games, but he probably played a really good game. So yeah, I don't say much to him. I really don't, because I know he can figure it out.
Had you had a player before? We talked about this last year but the partnership of him and Z, when he came into you and say, I have this late in the season last year when you were trying to figure out a way to get Z going and all this stuff. Had you had a player come to another player's aid like that before when you talk about leadership?
I've had a couple of players come to me, not so much in that vein. A couple of players that come, they're just so pissed off that they think I'm picking on that one player, and they're trying to be a good teammate. Jonesy was more of a what's best for Z, not a protection mode. It's just what's best for that guy. He's my partner. It's kind of going in one ear and out the other with you. You're kind of confusing him or whatever he was thinking at that time. And it was more of a sit down, hey, let me handle this. Not, hey, leave the guy alone. I've had a few of those along the way, which is good because, and sometimes you stoke it that way. You want to get a rise from the teammates. Jonesy was much more, let me take care of this. I said, I think I can handle it better right now. I think he'll listen to me and I'll be able to settle him down, that type of thing.
You mentioned the benching of Seth as maybe a starting point on his rise. Also, when you came here, Cam had been benched his game before. Now that's sort of where you started with him as well, and how he's grown from there.
Yeah, I didn't know Cam from a hole in a wall. I knew he was sat out, but after my first couple of games coaching him, I felt very comfortable putting him in all situations, and he can think the game. It's not just his quickness and his goal scoring and all that. He can think the game. So he has continued to grow, and whenever we talk about Cam, I always bring up that point of where can he handle having some success. I think he knows how to handle success now, and that's what's made him a more consistent player.
He was saying a few days ago that last year during that struggle at the beginning of the year, his grandfather died and all that stuff. He said that he kind of felt like he was on autopilot a little bit. Did you sense that in him? And had you ever had a player go through something like that? How do you get somebody? They have to work through that.
They just have to. They got to have something good happen to him. I don't think he can overcoach that because there were some things going on with him off the ice. But he's very similar to Jonesy. I don't think the only thing I always remind Cam is just don't get too big, and the other stuff he'll figure out. And yeah, so you kind of you always think as a coach you got to be in everybody's business. Sometimes it's best to leave them alone, and they become better players when you let them figure it out. I've had conversations with my coaches about this, and where we kind of do it a little bit differently than some of the coaches have done before, where we're not dotting the I's and crossing every T. We let them try to figure it out. I think in the big picture, they become better players quicker that way. And with Cam individually, we've kind of gone about it that way.
With that line, I mean, you've kept it basically together since last year, the last 33 games, all the way to the start of this year. How nice is that to just be able to get one line that's just dominant like that?
Yeah.
Just be able to keep them together.
Yeah, you guys have asked about lines in the league, I think, a couple of weeks ago and stuff like that. I haven't really given it much thought, but that line is one of the top lines in the league. And probably, how many? We've played 39 games, probably 20 times during those games. I'm thinking about breaking them up. That's. I have. I'm just being honest with you.
What's the reason you don't?
What's that? Because I'm just trying to let them figure it out.
Yeah.
I don't want to short circuit them with a knee-jerk reaction because I'm mad about a couple of shifts. And it's something I have to watch about as my coaching style is I'm mad, and I just change it up. And because I think it's unfair to them. They have done a lot of work for us, and as I said the other day, I think we need to get some secondary scoring going here because they are going to get checked tighter. So it's kind of a give and take as you go through that. And out of those 20 times, I've probably done it maybe 3 times, and they've come through. They maybe come through in overtime. And so you have to give them some credit where they have just kept about their business. They have to continue to work at the other side of the puck. It's a reminder we have with them all the time. And they've been really good.
John, I don't know if you remember this. After the 16-game win streak ended a couple years ago, you said at the time that maybe you should have changed the lines during the streak, but you were, I don't want to say afraid, but you didn't.
Yeah.
Is that gut feeling
That's
ever get any better, or is
No.
it always just the challenge?
No, that's the challenge for I think for not just me, for all coaches is you want to coach all the time, and you think you can make the difference now, where maybe if you just leave them alone, they'll make the difference. They'll figure it out for you. And I think that's a really important part of coaching is not to think that you have all the calls. It's not your game, it's their game. And you got to be really careful on where you go about it. And not just like that 16-gamer, it was not just the lines, it was our play too, and that's a fine line you walk. And I admitted to you guys earlier this year, I made a mistake where I let it go too far. And I let them try to figure out, and they got sloppier and sloppier, and that's when we had to reel them in. But those are calls that they're hard calls.
And they never get easier.
They never get easier because it's never the same one, and it's never the same things that are going on. So you got to be really aware of that.
Did you
make a
find
lot
out-
of mistakes.
Did you fight that a little bit with the Anderson, Foligno, Jenner line because it
Yes.
was so good, but you wanted to try to get Wenberg
Yes,
up? Is that one of
yes.
those things the coaches have to?
Yeah.
What am I gonna do here?
Yeah, but they really weren't scoring though. They were doing a lot of things as far as puck control,
Right.
and they kind of gave us our identity back a little bit. but we weren't getting a lot of goal scoring out of
was
there.
not.
Yeah, and I have to worry about. There are 3 guys, Wenberg, Duclair, and Bjorkstrand, that you just can't throw them into the trash.
Right.
We got to try to help them too in trying to get in offensive situations. So, yeah, you're juggling that stuff around all the time.
Is that one of those ones where, as a coach, you're like, I know what I'm going to get out of them. I can put it in my back pocket. And you know what I mean? Like,
there
you
are-
can always go back to
Yeah,
it.
there are notes that I have. I keep notes after games that's something I can go back to. Yeah, those are always on the D pairs on certain matches and within lines. Sure, you have those, but again, you don't want to. You just got to be really careful how much you're trying to make an effect. Where, as I just said to you, you got to let them figure it out too, and you got to be really careful. There's a fine line there.
You mentioned Duclair, but we haven't really talked a lot about him since he's been back in the lineup. Is that a good or bad thing in that terms of what does that mean?
Well, see, I think you guys should have been talking about him, not just in what you see as far as speed and offense, but just his concentration as far as back checking. I mean, he almost knocked Z out
Yeah.
because he was reloading so hard there. But he did that. He's going to be looking at some clips with Brad Larson tomorrow morning, just showing him some of the good things that he's done. We've shown him so many of the things that we want him to do that he isn't doing. When he starts doing it, you need to show him that too. So he has really concentrated as far as moving his legs, getting back above the puck.
Torch, back to Cam and Z. 3 years ago, you talked so much about culture and how it had to change. How important has those 2 guys' maturation been in helping the organization's culture change?
Oh yeah, and not so much in words and what they say in the locker room, but the style of play we have right now, as far as just going for it and attacking. And I think that develops into a mindset of we're not going to counterpunch on teams, we're going to go after teams. I think they've helped us there tremendously.
Pierre-Luc and his strength and ability to win battles along the wall, at his age and his size, is that just, it's cold here, it's sort of freakish, just his ability to do things with the strength and...
Well, one of it, and it's a good point, but one of the better things of his game that has surprised me is his amount of work that he does on the boards, as far as stopping and starting, trying to get himself off the board. This is with the puck. And the amount of work he does there, and then when he has a chance to accelerate out of there, how quickly he can get out of there. I think it's a testament to his conditioning, because it's tiresome trying to juke a guy and then explode out of there. He's one of the better players that I've seen as far as excelling off the boards. And listen, he does a lot of work for his 2 line mates. He is a 200-foot player. We're trying to get his line mates to help him out a little bit in that 200-foot game. He is the main. You got Cam and you got the big names over there, but he is the main piece right now as far as making that work, because he does a lot of things that a lot of people don't notice.